WES Engineering, based down in Cornwall, we're basically a subcontract precision engineering company. Essentially, we're a factory, we're a machine shop that can make parts out of metal. We generally go up to about 0.5 meter cubed, but obviously that depends on the component, it depends on the type of machining. We've got a very broad manufacturing base, so we cover CNC milling, CNC turning. We also do CNC grinding and manual grinding, and we also do EDM, spark erosion and wire erosion, as well as a load of other bits around the side. So sort of a bit of brazing, a bit of welding, a bit of bending, a bit of assembly, all those sorts of things. So we can kind of turn our hand to multiple industries. We particularly focus on, or we're specialists in machining hard metals, hard and exotic materials. So the likes of, well, tungsten carbide is a good example. We do a lot of tungsten carbide components for oil and gas and subsea sectors, for instance. So we've been a sort of specialist in tungsten carbide for 50 years, I suppose. But we also work with hardened steels, with stainless steels, Inconel, super duplex, all those kind of more exotic materials that are becoming more and more prevalent, I would guess, through multiple industries as people look to increase the durability of their components and make the products last longer and keep production lines running and that sort of thing. They want all of the wear parts to last longer. So we specialize in hard metal, but we've also got a couple of other divisions. For a long time, we've specialized in supplying resistance welding consumables to the automotive sector. And in recent years, as the market transitions to EV manufacture, we've moved into joining technologies more broadly. So we were mainly resistance welding. We now sort of do a little bit more in riveting, laser welding, bonding, etc. So there's a lot of different technologies. It's much more of a mixed bag now in terms of certainly UK automotive manufacturing. And we supply the likes of Nissan and Jaguar Land Rover, BMW, Vauxhall. We still supply those parts. That's still a big chunk of our business, the resistance welding consumables, but we're just trying to broaden our offering to the customer and sort of enhance the value proposition that has been established for so long, and in the last 5 years has just kind of shifted a little bit, and we've tried to sort of pivot what we offer to make sure we're capturing all of that market and making sure we're offering to joining engineers what we've traditionally offered to resistance welding engineers over the years.
Do you find, I know, because obviously you specialize in the kind of hard metals, but you're going quite diverse in what you're offering. Do you find that that kind of sticks to specific sectors, or do you offer services to multiple sectors now? Because I know obviously you've said that you do a lot of oil and gas, you do a lot of automotive. Is there anything else that kind of sticks out in terms of sectors that you work with?
Yeah, we're moving more and more towards the advanced engineering sectors, I would say. So we've got machines. The last couple of machines we've invested in are sort of Matsuura milling machines that are a bit of a step change for us in terms of technology. They will run lights out. They'll run 24/7. Lots of automation, multi-pallet machining, more accurate, more intuitive. So we're heading down that route because that's the way the market's going. That's where customers, that's where we need to be to compete in the market in the future. And it also makes the UK manufacturing more competitive compared to other regions of the world, because we are taking the emphasis away from the skills that are required. But actually what we're doing is upskilling the guys from being machine loaders to machine setters. They can set pallets, get these automated machines running, and then the easy bit is done by the machine. So those guys are actually getting better skills, better pay, but we need fewer of them, if you like. And that's kind of the journey we're going on, is towards sort of medium to large batch work rather than the sort of the smaller specialist work we've done in the past. But we are also maintaining the small batch work in hard metals. The hard metal stuff tends to be small batch sizes because the parts last for a long time. So we've got a lot of manual grinders, we've got some manual mills and manual lathes, etc., for lower batch work. But we're also trying to complement that with the sort of fast and efficient machining of bigger batch components, and that tends to be honest, in aluminiums and coppers and brass and softer materials basically. But that works well where we've got that balance. But yeah, absolutely, we're fit for nuclear approved, so we're in the nuclear industry. We do stuff in food manufacturing, and various sectors, to be honest, across the UK. With the hard metal bit, that specialist bit kind of means that we competed. We kind of take the cream off the top of all of those sectors, if you like. We're less competitive on the easier bits, basically, and then each of those areas has got the more intricate, more complex, harder, more critical parts, and that's where we tend to operate more. So
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that automation stuff's really interesting. Like, naturally, the conversation is automation means less jobs for people, less opportunities for people, less opportunities for humans, if you like. But I think there's something along, don't quote me exactly on this figure, but there's something along the lines of 65,000 current vacancies in UK manufacturing today. So there is already a skills gap. There's nothing we can do about it. There's a skills gap. There's too many vacancies, not enough people to fill them. So the only way we're going to fill them is automation and upskilling the current staff to become more skilled and ultimately get better wages out of it. So I don't see it being a bad thing. It's just
no, absolutely. And I think about half of those vacancies are here, to be honest. We're ambitious and we're trying to grow, and that's not true. We've actually the skills of, it's become easier to find staff in the last couple of years as the market's kind of softened. We found, but what we tend to do is bring in guys and then train them up. We have an apprentice scheme where we're bringing through at least a couple of apprentices every year. And yesterday I looked at this stat from our HR system. 19 out of the so we've got 38 staff here. 19 of them have either come through an apprenticeship scheme with us or are current apprentices. So 50% of our workforce is homegrown talent, and we're hugely proud of that. In that space, we've also lost a load of, naturally, as you do, you lose some of the guys you train up and they go off to bigger and better things, which is that's how it should work. It can be frustrating at times, but that's how it often works, and that's fine. But to retain the staff, those guys, is testament really to the way the sort of the learning culture in the company, but also, that's what we're trying to promote, and that's what we're trying to show. That's really important to us, to take youngsters on, get them trained up, and then see them either spread their wings here internally or go off and do something bigger and better elsewhere.
Ultimately, it's helping the sector, and if they're helping it's not exactly competitor, but if they're helping someone further up the supply chain, that's more likely to help that business, which is then going to get them more work, which they're more likely to then feed back into the supply chain to yourself. So then you get more work out of it by essentially training up these skilled staff and supporting the sector as a whole, like looking at it as an entire sector, not just looking at it almost inwardly as a business. It's like, that's the sort of things that we all really need to be looking at a little bit more.
Yeah, it builds your network as well, doesn't it? And we've got lots of these people who've left us, but they stay in touch. They always say we don't want to leave, but the pay is 50% more in this great big company. So they'll go off and do that, but they'll stay in touch, and they'll.
Cornwall's very friendly, and everyone likes talking to people in Cornwall.
It could be something to do with the local Cornish culture. That's true.
Yeah. So, did it all start with hard metals? Like, originally, is that where the company formed? Was it always hard metals, or what was the kind of background around that and that journey of where it is now?
So hard metal actually started out as, they were called Tungsten Carbide Engineering, and started out in 1979. So actually they started before WES as a company.
Right.
WES formed when Andrew Hosking, who left the company eventually last year, so after 40 years, he started in 1983, sorry, when he took redundancy from 𝗕𝗢𝗡𝗨𝗦, which was obviously a big employer, I think 5,000 or 6,000 people locally to us in Camborne. He took redundancy, and I've seen his sort of first order book, which is a diary, if you like, with a few scribbled notes in it, and it was fixing a tractor for Mr. Jones down the road, and then you know, machining some spare bits for Mr. whatever's farm machinery. And gradually over the first sort of 6 to 9 months, you started to see industrial applications coming in, bit of car industry stuff, a few welding electrodes dripping through. So we had Hurst Holden Hunt, a sort of a well-known brand, I suppose, in the welding industry, were down in Camborne, and he started doing some work for them, and they were electrodes for the Peugeot production line when that was operating up in the Midlands, and then gradually got into that market and started to understand the products, and grew the company, and in 1990 became a limited company. So there wasn't until then 2003 that hard metal was going through a little bit of a difficult time, and Andrew decided to buy hard metal, essentially acquire the company and integrate it into the factory here in Redruth. They were only a few miles up the road, but we brought the staff across, brought the machines across, and for a few years they operated as sort of separate businesses, separated by the walkway down the middle of the factory almost. But as years went on, we've become closer and closer in terms of the staff who can migrate from. We put a lot of emphasis on broad skill sets, so the guys can be running mills 1 minute and then they can go off and run a grinder, for instance, and then do a bit in the EDM section. And we like to move people around. And also, of course, as you're grinding products, you know, ideally you pick up the earlier bit in the process, which is turning the product or milling the product. And with having the capabilities all within one building, we gradually sort of grew, and they became so closely aligned that in 2022 we merged the two companies, 𝗕𝗢𝗡𝗨𝗦 the staff, and sort of transferred all the assets, and we've now just got the one company. But we did a similar thing in 2016. There was another acquisition where we bought a company called British Classic Car Parts, who are based up in Devon, and we've integrated that into the company as well. That's only a small part of the turnover, but it's an interesting part of the business. We make brake calipers for classic cars, and we also offer leaf spring suspension for classic cars. So vehicles from the 1950s, 60s, 70s, old Jaguar Mark IIs, E-types, Triumph TR4, TR6, all those sort of classic and vintage vehicles.
I mean, obviously, my background is in engineering, in manufacturing. I've operated CNC machines. I know how they work. I know what I'm looking at when I'm in and around your factory. But for I guess for someone who isn't integrated in the sector, when they're looking around and they're walking around, the big thing for them is brake caliper. I know what that looks like. Everyone knows what a brake caliper is. They see it on every single day. I think especially when I was walking around seeing that, you know, you're racking and shelves of all these calipers everywhere, and it's just something that stood out to me. We like I mean, we love machining. That's what we do, and that's what the guys are really passionate about. But like you say, when you have real world applications where it's not going off to some distant assembly or, you know, to a oil and gas application on the bottom of the North Sea, that is a little bit more separate from what the guys can see. They can't really understand that application. But when you take brake calipers and you go and fit them to a car, you drive it and you test the brakes and you can see the improvement, that's real world, and that's really nice. And we're gearing up for the Advanced Engineering Show at the NEC in a month's time, or whatever it is, and that's going to be really good, and I'm really looking forward to it. But the classic car trade shows that we go to are a different animal altogether. You have different conversations. Right.
You know, it's people love to talk about their cars and the industry, etc. So those are quite different, quite interesting. Lots of fancy, shiny cars around, and it's nice to see. You know, so it's a nice bit of our portfolio.
Okay, 2 questions. One, are you bringing anything from BCC to the show at Advanced Engineering as a bit of a standout on the stand?
Yes, we'll probably bring something to show. Yeah, they always look quite nice and flash. And at the end of the day, it's an engineered product that we've designed. We've put a lot of effort into that design process. You know, we're approved for designing these things. They're safety critical products. It's brought some really good disciplines into the business in terms of the design and the testing of these things, because we're very clear that obviously they need to be perfect when they go out to the customer. So we put a lot of emphasis on that side of the process, and it's nice to see products that mean something to somebody and look nice on trade stands. And at the end of the day, it's a machine piece of metal as well as being a brake caliper. So it's a good example of what we can do.
Yeah, I think that will probably spark quite a lot of interest. So you've covered a lot there in terms of what WES are doing at the minute, what sectors they're in, what markets they're in. Is there anything that you say that makes you stand out from competitors? Is it that variation? Is it, you know, what do you think is different that you do compared to other companies in the offering similar things?
I think it is that variation in machining capability. So we can take a product and basically one hit, you know, it's a one-stop shop, if you like. We can do the turning, the milling, then we can do some heat treatment, then we can do some EDM, spark erosion, and some grinding, for instance. And we've literally got products that will go through all of the 5 different sections of the business. And for a lot of companies, that would mean subcontracting part of the process out to a specialist. We've got some really good kit in that. We've got some good shareholders who are ambitious, who are happy to invest. So our equipment is top of the range. We've got George Fisher EDM machines. We've got Matsuura milling machines. We tend to have Morisiki lathes, etc. So we're right at the top end of the market for a lot of these products, and that means that they're quick, they're efficient. So we're competing, but on top of that, we can do everything in house. And that work we've done over many years in the resistance welding market and in the hard metal market. There's a lot of solutions type based stuff in there, and we're pretty good at doing that. And with the design capability and we're trying to bring in an innovation strategy. That's a big theme for us in 2025. We feel there's a pretty good sort of rounded offering there for customers. In probably 4 or 5 different value propositions in there. Some people want just fast and accurate machining. We can do that. Some people want hard metal components that will last longer. We can do that too. Some people want, you know, a company that can handle a product without shipping it around the country a few times. We can do that bit. So I think it's that versatility and the adaptability that makes us stand out.
How do you, because obviously your ideal product or your ideal customer is someone that goes through that whole journey and does every single element. So you get a product from start and you take it all the way through to the finish. But I guess at the same time, people can find you and say, oh, I just need some grinding done on this component, and you don't need anything else.
Yeah.
How do you kind of, because that's essentially two completely different businesses and 2 completely different offerings. How do you balance essentially the marketing of both of those? You can offer everything, but you can also just offer small elements.
That's the bit we're not very good at, to be honest. We try to, so we focus on our individual capabilities. So we say we can grind hard metals, etc. And we get inquiries for that, and that's our bread and butter. So there'll be products going through the way we just grind them, we just eat it, and off they go, or we just do some milling and off it goes. What we're trying to get better at is making customers aware that we've got more to offer. There's a bigger picture, and traditionally we just haven't been that good at shouting about that, to be honest. So yeah, there is a piece of work to be done there to make sure customers understand.
Aware of both sides. As I say, it is almost 2 completely different marketing activities. Yeah. One where you're telling people we do the whole lot, but then one that you're saying, well, we do CNC machining, we do grinding, do this, and it's, I can imagine that's a bit of a challenge, because you don't want to lose if someone just wants grinding and they come to their website and they see you do everything. They're like, well, I don't fall into 80% of that. I just want one thing, so I'm going to go find a specialist that just does that. I guess it's that message that's a challenge to get across, I would say.
It is, and we get all sorts of inquiries through the website because we're quite broad on what we do, from from one-off bespoke crazy projects that we've seen to big batch work that's way too big for us, or far too big volumes. So it is difficult to sort of hone down exactly what we want, but we find it hard to say no. If we can do it, we tend to.
Yeah. So I want to ask about general challenges that you face as a business and what you think general industry challenges are. But out of interest, does location cause a challenge? If you say Cornwall to most people, they say, oh, pasties, beaches, holidays, tourism, essentially. They don't think hardcore, hard metal, machining, manufacturing, real engineering. Does that kind of cause any issues, would you say?
Well, I think it's a perception issue. So if that sort of brand, if that's what people associate with Cornwall, then no doubt it can, they can think of us as a sort of a laid back tourist destination. The reality is there are, as you've seen, there are manufacturing pockets all over Cornwall of some fantastic companies doing some stuff. They don't tend to hear about them locally because most of their markets are national or international like ours. So there are some real hidden gems in the Cornish manufacturing landscape, and we've actually got a vibrant community. And it's over the years, Cornwall has been a firm manufacturing base going back to the sort of mining and so on going forward. So the Industrial Revolution started here. Let's not forget how important Cornwall has been over the years in terms of engineering and manufacturing. Customer perception, I always say to them that if we could machine it in Alaska, in Cornwall, and you'll get it next day, maybe not from Alaska, but we could be anywhere in the country, and once it's finished, we're going to ship it, you're going to get it tomorrow morning. So it doesn't really matter where we are. Obviously, in terms of collaboration and that sort of thing, it's always useful to be close to your customers, but we can't be close to Jaguar Land Rover in Solihull and close to our oil and gas customers in Aberdeen. So there's always going to be a bit of a geographical spread. We're certainly, our employees like to be where we are. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And to be fair, customers, we tend to get customer visits on sort of a Friday afternoon, and they're going to spend the weekend down here. So
and go for a swim over there. Why not?
Exactly, make the most of it. And people genuinely do sort of tie a bit of a social trip into a business trip as well, and that's nice. That works for us. And we've also got a sales team. We've got 4 or 5 guys who travel around the country and visit customers and do that engagement piece and the collaboration bit. So it doesn't cause us any problems, but there might be. You're right. Maybe there's a perception issue.
Yeah. So what are the biggest challenges that you face then?
Well, it has been skills in the last few years that really constrained our growth, probably for 4 or 5 years from 2017 onwards. We had the opportunity to grow the business in certain sectors, and we just couldn't get the staff to man the machines to push things forward, and we couldn't move towards automation and that sort of machining strategy quickly enough to offset it. So there was a few years where there were some big companies locally attracting all the staff, offering really good salary packages, etc. And we can't blame the guys for disappearing off and taking those positions. For us as an SME, we're competitive locally with other companies of our size. We've got a great culture here, so once people are here, they don't like to leave, but it's difficult to attract staff because they don't know that until they get here. So skills has been a bit of a challenge, and it's an ongoing challenge, but it's one that we're now on top of. I would say we've got a good stream of people coming through. The workforce is relatively settled. We've got a low turnover of staff, and there are opportunities to bring people in as we need them. So I think the skills agenda is becoming easier. It's probably, I would say, the technological change in the industry, and I'm talking about at a big level, at our customer level, so EV manufacture but also moving towards machine learning and AI and additive manufacturing and all of those different technologies that we've got to keep a watching brief on. But we're, at the end of the day, we're we subcontract machine, and we do the machining that we do it well, and there's a big demand out there for it. So but we've got to stay aligned with what our customers need, and stay competitive with what everybody else is doing in the market. So that rate of technological change is incredible at the moment. I've never seen anything like it, and I think in 5 to 10 years time it will be a different world, a different market. Just need to make sure we're keeping up with that. So we've got a strong capital investment program that's going to run over the next 3 or 4 years. We've identified the machines that we think will be the next ones to step up in terms of technology, and we're trying to embrace digitalization and AI when it's appropriate and where it's appropriate, if it can enhance the business and make us more efficient and that sort of thing. But knowing when and where to do that is difficult.
Yeah, I think you've touched on that really key point around not just doing things for the sake of doing it because other people are doing it and they're telling you to. It's, especially when it comes to digitalization, it's not going digital for the sake of going digital. It's going digital because it's going to enhance your business and what you're doing. And we were having a discussion about this the other day down at one of the member visits we did, and that speed of change of technology, new systems, new software, new programs, whatever it may be, has almost meant that you almost have to entirely reinvent your business every 18 months to 2 years. Instead of previously, it was probably every 5 to 10 years you have to have a new kind of strategy and a new marketing ploy or whatever it may be. But now everything is changing so rapidly. It's hard to keep up with. And I think, I'm hoping, with communities like ConeX, there are people out there that are very clued up and very much on top of this sort of thing. So we can start to present some of those opportunities to members who just don't have time. You've got to get on with the day-to-day work. Let us present those opportunities, let us present those things so you can carry on doing that and apply them as and when they're necessary. And to be honest,
I think the forum there is really useful as well, to be able to discuss these ideas and see what everybody else is doing, and whenever there's these sort of topics come up in the ConeX forum, there's always some good contributions from other SMEs who are having the same issues or have had the same issues, and specialist experts who know about these topics. I think a key point is as well as embracing all of that, like you say, you've got to stay focused and not be distracted by the next shiny new thing over here because it's it looks nice and another bit of software that does a little bit more than the last bit of software. You can't keep changing everything all the time. So you've got to pick your battles, choose, stay focused and choose the areas that are going to have the biggest impact on the business. And
And again, I think you've kind of touched on it there, but what do you see the biggest opportunities are for the sector growth in the future? It's got to be the technology advances, right? And the potential of automation and what that kind of brings to the world.
Absolutely. That emerging tech is really important. And embracing that, like I say, within ourselves at our level, but also within our customers and within their applications. I think for us, it's about particular specific sectors. Renewable energy in the southwest is emerging to become, with the floating offshore wind, and also we've got sort of lithium mining and stuff like that down here. We've got the spaceport over at Newquay, and the aerospace stuff that's going on. There are several sectors that are really growing in prominence based on these technologies. So the lithium mining, for instance, the space stuff, it's all relevant, but it's all being driven by the technology behind it. And we need to, again, pick which sectors are most relevant to us. It's lovely to be involved in talking about space, and we've got bits, whizzing around the earth at 27,000 miles an hour or whatever. Worrying, isn't it? But it's nice to be involved in those sectors, but they're probably not big enough for us to fulfill all of our capacity and our ambition. So we got a watching brief on a lot of that stuff, but we also need to be mindful of things like energy costs and that sort of thing. So embracing, you know, we're going to put another solar array on the roof here in next year. We've still got a big energy bill. What that looks like in the future, who knows? You know, you've got nuclear SMRs coming on board, and as I say, we're fit for nuclear approved, so we're trying to be engaged with that technology. Hopefully we'll have an SMR in the southwest somewhere that we can work with, but if not, then we'll go further afield. And there's lots of these emerging market sectors, I guess, that will give us the opportunities for growth.
Timing is key on those, so isn't it? It's capturing the right people in those emergent technologies and emergent businesses at the right time to make sure it's optimal for ultimately what you're trying to achieve in your ambitions within the business.
Yeah, exactly.
So obviously this discussion has come off the back of the Advanced Engineering Show in a few weeks' time. I mean, the easy question is why are you exhibiting? Why are you going? What is it that's standing out that's hopefully going to be successful for you?
Well, for us, it's a lot to do with finding new partners to work with collaboration. We like I say, we're implementing an innovation strategy in 2025, and we want to be working with other companies in that same space. So trying to come up with new ways of working, new products, new industries, etc. So making those connections, and ConeX has been really effective for that. So within the ConeX group, but also obviously more broadly within the advanced engineering sector, that's really important for us. We'd love to find some new customers. If they want to come along and talk to us about what we do, then you know that would be great. Sorry,
Yeah.
ran out of things to say there.
That's all right. No, yeah, sure. Obviously, have you exhibited at this one before?
No, we don't generally exhibit at anything. Only the classic car stuff. That's all we do, to be honest.
Yeah, so it's not a new market, but a new marketing method, I guess, in terms of exposure and getting the brand out there and letting people know, and almost by doing it with us, it's that kind of entry piece into the let's go and explore some of these exhibitions and see what's going on.
Yeah, that's right. I think by doing it through ConeX, that gives us a stepping stone, because we're not going to go out and have a big stand ourselves. We're dipping our toe in the market, in the water to see what we can get out of the Advanced Engineering Show. We're in those markets. We'd love to explore those markets further, aerospace and defence, for instance, and medical type markets and stuff. So all of those are relevant to us, and we just want to explore them, I think, more so. And
is there anything you're especially looking forward to over the 2 days? Any people you're looking to meet? Anything at the show that's going on? Any kind of sessions that you're got an eye on?
Yeah, I've had a look at the agenda. There's a couple that I'd definitely like to pick up on around emerging tech in particular. The AI, the automation, the machine learning, and all that sort of stuff is really interesting for all of us here. And we've got a couple of customers who are coming on, and a couple of potential customers coming along that be great to have conversations with, just have a chat with. And I think when you're in that space of advanced engineering and looking to the future, and it helps to have those conversations in that sort of environment, and you're looking at what everybody else is doing and what the future might look like. So yeah, really looking forward to engaging with it, and also a couple of beers with the ConeX lads won't go amiss either. Exactly.
And I think, I mean, you touched on it there, the whole collaboration piece around this. So what, from my opinion, SMEs struggle with when they go and exhibit at shows, they are there on their own stand, stood there for the whole 2 days, 3 days in some instances, waiting for people to come to them.
Yeah,
and it doesn't always work like that. Whereas if doing it on a collaborative stand like ours, you can grab me for 20 minutes and just say, can you come and stand on my portion of the stand, so you can go for a walk. You can then go listen to some of these sessions, some of these seminar sessions. You can go talk to your existing customers that are exhibiting elsewhere. And you can go have those conversations that mean your stand isn't left alone as well, which is often the case for some instances. People just cannot leave for 2 days because they're tied to their stand. Even struggle to go and get lunch and a bottle of water is a challenge.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So yeah, by having this kind of community, I guess, around you means you can tap your neighbour on the shoulder and say, I'm just going to go for a quick walk, I've got a meeting, do you mind telling people about us if they pop over and seem interested?
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing worse than turning up to a stand that you're looking forward to speak to and there's nobody there to speak to, and then having to keep coming back or remembering to find it again, etc. So yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, that does help.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's obviously our third year of doing the show with members. We've got a good new mix of members this year as well, so it's not the same coming back on our stand. It's a you know, we've got a good group of new members, which is very interesting, and it just mixes it up for us as well. And people come into our stand, get to talk to different people every time. So yeah, it should be a good show. Obviously, for those watching that don't know, 30th and 31st of October, and we are on stand Q170, next to the main stage, so you shouldn't miss us, hopefully. And that's kind of all we've got on this session. There is one little addition that I'm liking to add into these videos at the moment, and that's your opportunity to put me on the spot a bit. So this is not scripted, this is not pre-prepared. I would like you to ask me a completely random question related to business, ConeX, myself, my opinion, just to entice what we're up to. Over to you.
I'd be interested, you know, particularly in the future of ConeX and you know, where you see yourself in 10 years' time. I had a conversation this week with somebody who was talking about the Portsmouth Manufacturing Group and how they've turned into a model where they can actually go to a prime and extract work from them and then deliver it as a group. And that's always very difficult to do. I've seen consortiums try to do that in the past, and it's very difficult because you often then have competing companies and that sort of thing. And I wondered if that was a model for ConeX in the future and where you thought they might be, or is that a different avenue you're thinking for the future?
I think for us, from day one when we started this, it was never about just building another directory, another network, another trade body, whatever you want to call it. There's plenty of those already out there doing very good things in some instances. And it wasn't about just the numbers. It wasn't about competing with some of the others and going to the thousands of members. That was never the plan. It was always going to be get this to a core group of people that all follow that ethos that we're putting in place, the relationship first, community, helping each other, supporting members through challenges and those sorts of things, building that familiarity between people, getting a good core group of people together. And then the exciting part of all of that is what we can do for members. And it's where we can start to look at funding opportunities, where we can start to look at bid writing, innovate bids, consortiums, whatever it may be, collaborating with primes, as you say there. But the main aim of what we're doing is growing the SME community and giving UK manufacturing SMEs a bit more of a voice.
Yeah,
we all know it needs it. I put a kind of quiz onto the group earlier on in terms of the number of SMEs that are micro SMEs, so less than 4 employees. And I'm not going to tell you the
no, I've cast my vote, but I'm worried that I'm miles out, to be honest.
You are miles out. The look before we came on this call. It is a surprising number of very, very small micro SMEs, and what we're doing, I'm hoping, gives them a voice and gives them opportunities to speak to people that they would never be able to do if they were just going it alone. And yeah, so there is a model of growth. There is a model around essentially building our group of businesses together and supporting them through some difficult challenges, but also some really exciting opportunities that are coming up. There's a lot of emerging technology out there, and as I said before, it's about capturing some of it at the right times. I think it's very difficult at the minute to get into some of the existing primes in terms of their preferred suppliers and some of the portals that you have to be part of, and there's a whole conversation to be had around that. But there's less of a conversation around some of these emerging will be primes in the future because they're well funded, they're exciting technologies, but how can we get some of our members in front of some of those companies, and how can we get essentially become the preferred supplier for some of that emerging technology? And I think there's huge, that's never going to go away. There's always going to be new technology coming up which needs a new supply chain building.
Yeah.
And that's some of the stuff that we're going to be looking into doing without giving away too much of the ConeX secrets.
Yeah, sure. I think innovation actually comes a lot from the SME community, or it's proven to have come. The majority of innovation comes from the SME community and is often then later snapped up by the big boys. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But the actual risk taking comes from within those smaller companies, and the more that primes realise that, and the more they engage and access that pool of resources, the better for everybody. To be honest.
Don't get me wrong. I think they do realise, or they are realising that. But I mean, at the end of the day, they've got targets to reach as well. They're there to do a job, to help UK PLC, whatever it may be. They're there to support. But there is definitely more of a momentum shift and a realisation that 99% of the UK's manufacturing community comes from SMEs. And if that didn't exist, there would be no such thing as UK manufacturing, big or small. So I think, there's definitely a bit more of a focus actually looking back to the SMEs now, rather than just treating them like they're not there.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So so we'll bring this one to an end. So thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you at the Advanced Engineering Show in a few weeks' time.